Hello, hello. Today I am going to share with you 5 lessons that I have learned from my clients. And as a bonus, you're going to hear these lessons in their own words. I'm going to share with you some clips of some interviews I did with them. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you're new here, welcome. I am Patricia Brooks. I'm an American who moved to France in 2018, and now I help people who are ready to start the next chapters of their lives living and thriving in a foreign country find the confidence and courage and wherewithal to actually make it happen. And on my channel, I talk about my life in France, about moving abroad, and how to dig down deep and live the kind of life you know you deserve. And today I am going to share some lessons that I have learned from my clients over the past 5 years, because believe it or not, I have been in business here in France for almost 5 whole years. And I have learned some amazing things. So I decided to record this video because this morning I woke up feeling really excited about something that's going to be happening in October with the members of my Carefree Expat Incubator program. They are going to be coming to a summit that I give every year. This is going to be the 4th annual summit, and they're going to be coming to Surrey, to my hometown. And I was thinking, oh, I really need to start planning that. I need to order some swag, think about, how that's all going to look, what kind of excursions we're going to go on. And it got me thinking, you know what? I have learned so much from them. And I thought, you know what? I need to share this with you. And so the first lesson that I want to share comes from a woman who moved to Germany. I don't know how many years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago now. And the lesson that I learned from her was that sometimes you have to get sick and tired and make a decision. She wanted to move to Germany for, 7 years. And she finally made a decision because she was so tired of not already living there. And I want to share this clip with you, and you can see for yourself, how that worked wonders for her to actually make the move abroad happen. You had this childhood dream to live in Berlin, although you had a dream for a while to make it happen. What was the thing that made you decide? Like, I talk all the time about, people will come to me and say, yeah, I'm thinking about making this move abroad. And the question I have all the time is, okay, you want to do this thing, but have you decided to make this happen? What made you decide to actually, after 7 years, say, okay, I'm going to figure this thing out?
I tried to move the year of the pandemic, and it didn't happen. And that got me, I think, angry, irritated, tunnel vision.
Mhm.
I think a big motivator for me is getting tired of being sick and tired.
Mhm.
And so I had gotten there, and from from the fall 2020, I just had tunnel vision, and being at home helped. Being stuck
Mhm.
at home helped, but I just had Germany on my mind, and
Mhm.
whoever I spoke to, they knew that I was somehow going to end up there.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. And you talk about you got angry. I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. And when I was going through coach training, I learned about the 7 levels of energy. And at the lowest 2 levels, level one is apathy, where you're just kind of sleeping all day, you're lounging on the couch, you're not doing anything. But level 2 is a slightly higher level of energy. It's not the most positive, but it is a level of energy that can get you going, right? And that's what I heard in that you were like, okay, I'm tired of this. I got it. This is going to happen.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. And so that leads me to, the question. So you got focused. Everybody knew that this was the thing you were going to do. how did you how did you actually get unstuck, or how did you get unstuck?
Well, me and my big mouth during the pandemic, because I was so tunnel vision focused on getting back, then anybody that I spoke to, I ended up sooner or later mentioning that I was trying to move to Germany and I was thinking about moving to Germany, and I really didn't know how that was going to happen. Um, and a friend of mine, who I had a conversation with her in the park, and a few weeks later, she said, "Hey, there's this woman on Instagram, and she's looking for somebody to talk to. You want to connect with her?" And I was like, "Sure, I'll tell anybody about this." So I connected with Patricia. That's how we met, and then I learned about the program.
Yeah, and at that point, is the program didn't exist. I was in the process of creating the Carefree Expat Incubator program, so I was doing my research. So you did sat for a market research call, and then a month or so later, I said, "Okay, I know what my program's going to look like, and I share that with you." And you're like, "Absolutely." And in fact, you were the first person to join my beta program, so I owe a lot to you, and I'm so glad that things are working out for you in Germany. So Tulu was my very first member of my Carefree Expat Incubator program. And I am so excited for her and where she is today. She's been through a lot and a lot of experiences, and she so deserves the life that she has now. Now, lesson number 2 has to do with the idea that there is power in being around like minded people when you are working toward a goal. And Lillian puts it so nicely in this conversation I had with her. I've actually had 2 conversations with her. This is, I believe, the second one, but I will put links to all of these conversations in the description of this video so you can watch them all in their entirety if you so choose to. But Lillian, her insight here really made me understand something I hadn't when I was developing my program. Let's check it out.
Even though I had, in my 20s, lived in Europe before, lived in the south of Italy for 4 years and made my life there, and my parents were Greek, so I am of Greek heritage, the European connection was always very familiar to me and comfortable. But my friends around me that I love so dearly didn't quite understand what I was doing or realize that I was actually doing it. Mm-hmm. And so I needed to be around people and have a conversation and understanding with people that were in the same boat as me, that were trying to make a move, that understood what I was going through. And you are a wealth of knowledge, so that I knew that I was getting the right direction as well. And the support from the community that you have within the group was extremely important to me. Because we don't do anything alone as we might think we do, but we don't. The steps are ours, but you're kind of like being held up on a magic carpet by so many other people around you.
When you are attempting to do something that people around you have not done or have never attempted, or perhaps don't even have a desire to, it can feel like you are doing something that nobody has done before. But when you find a community of people who are working toward a similar goal, or perhaps who have already achieved that, then that gives you a sort of support that strengthens your resolve, that helps you to move forward probably in a way that feels more empowering than if you were to do it all alone. So there is power in being around people who are going for similar goals. Now, lesson number 3 comes from a woman who just moved to France back in May of 2026. And the lesson has to do with something that I have come to understand more and more as I have gotten older. And that is when something isn't working out for you, when you're putting forth the effort and there seems to be resistance, that there may be another way to get to the goal or the thing that I'm working to achieve. Now, she wanted to come to France on a student visa. She is meticulous, she's organized, she was together. And so she applied for a student visa. She's not somebody who's 22 years old. She's in her 60s. But for one reason or another, she was denied that visa. And she's like, I just want to get this going so that I can, hit my dates. And so within record time, she turned around and another application, she thought, I think I'm missing this. And she made sure that she had that together. She went to the VFS office, which was not close, and she applied again. And once again, she was turned down. And at that moment, she thought, well, okay, I really want to do this thing, and maybe the student visa is not the way to go for me. And it was hard, right? But she decided she was going to apply for a third time. But this time she was going to go for a visitor visa. She told herself, you know what? I can always still go to school, right? And I can still learn French. I can still work to get back to a level of French that I had when I was younger. And so that's what she did. You know what? She was approved for the visitor visa. And so now she's here in France. She's taking French lessons. She's in school. And she recognizes now why she did not get the student visa. She is finding out how challenging it is to be a student with everything else that she's got going on in order to acclimate to her new country. And she is so pleased that her studies will be coming to an end very soon, and she can explore and do other things that she would like to do as she is in France. Now, this is very similar to another client I have who was a one-on-one client. She wasn't a member of the Carefree Expat Incubator program, but she too struggled to get a visa approved. Now, I reached out to her, I guess, back at the beginning of this year to see how things were going. We were working through some things around leaving her job in order to make her dream of living in Europe a reality with her family. And we worked through that, and plans were set that they were going to sell their house. They were going to move to France. And I hadn't heard anything. So I reached out to her to see how things were going. Well, just last week, I got an email from her saying, my apologies for not getting back to you sooner. We've had an interesting time of it. We sold the house, we applied for a visa, and we were denied. Then we applied for a second visa, and we were denied. And so we decided, house is sold. We need to do something. So they came to France on what they could with their passports, and they spent time in France. And then they spent some time in Spain. And Spain was one of the countries they had considered, especially since they were coming from Mexico. The language would be easier. But they had landed on France for some reason. And they decided they were going to visit Spain. And while they were there, they ran into somebody who was looking for somebody for their organization. And her husband was qualified, and he was offered a job, and now they are living in Spain. This lesson really reminds me of a saying that I heard years and years ago, and that anytime when I feel like I am, swimming upstream or going against the current, or something feels like it's pushing against what I am working toward, I ask myself, and that is, the range of what we think and do is limited by what we fail to notice. And because we fail to notice that we fail to notice, there is little we can do to change until we notice how failing to notice shapes our thoughts and deeds. And that's a quote by R.D. Lang. And anytime I feel like, oh, I really want to do this thing, but this isn't panning out for me, why is this such a struggle? I stop and ask myself, what am I failing to notice here? The lesson here is there is more than one way to reach your goal. There's more than one way, as the saying goes, to skin a cat. All right, so that is lesson number 3 for my clients. I think it's a really powerful one, and it really is illustrated in this trying to go the path that you believe is the right thing, and resistance is thrown your way. Now, Sharon moved to Portugal a few years back now, and I spoke with her maybe 6 months after she arrived. And what I learned from her, or one of the things I learned from her, because I have learned so much from all of my clients, but one of the things I learned from her was how powerful this why statement that I have my clients work through is, how powerful it is in terms of not only getting them into action and staying in action, but also in creating the kind of life that they have envisioned for themselves once they are finally abroad. And so I'm going to run the clip here so that you can see it, and then we'll talk about it briefly on the other side.
And I love that.
Yes, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So let's, one of the things that I work with the members of the program on is defining why you want to move abroad, why you want to turn your life upside down so completely, so that you have something that anchors you when it gets challenging, something that inspires you to continue on. Why did you want to move? I know that you had the story, but why? What was your why for wanting to move to Portugal?
I want to live a simple life in Portugal, unencumbered by things, immersed in a lovely landscape, surrounded by friendly people, good food, good wine, and a beautiful, if challenging, language.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the simple life is an important piece of your why. Where did this idea, where did your whole why come from? Where did the idea of living a simple life come from? What is that connected to?
Well, I think I was able to come to an articulation of why I really want to move to Portugal out of getting in touch with my values. We all have values, but most of the time we don't know what they are. And one of the, if not the first exercise in the Carefree Expat Incubator program is to be able to say what your values are and then prioritize them. And one of the things that came up for me as a value was simplicity, living a simple life. And that I connected with that immediately. And then, working further and recognizing that I do want to connect with people. I do want to be part of a community. And I want to enjoy all that this environment gives to me. And so out of that, because I was able finally, and it took a few coaching calls to finally articulate my values at that time, I was able to articulate my why. And I will say that my why really was like a North Star. as I was preparing to move. And I discovered after being here for about, I think, 3 or 4 months, 5 months, it is still my North Star. And so it informs a lot of my living in Portugal, because the other thing I discovered was you go through this process and it's an arduous, challenging, scary, expensive process to get here. And now what? Now what? Okay. Now what does it look like to live a simple life in Portugal? And so with that why in front of me, I was able to establish some goals and objectives for myself.
One of the things I remembered as Sharon was working through her why statement, as she was coming to the group coaching calls to refine it and to kind of really talk through her core values, was that it wasn't the simplest thing to do. But the day she came to a coaching call and she had it, and she read it, I could see her energy change. And I could really sense that this was something that was very meaningful for her. And now, because of that, that helped her get to Portugal, but also to create a community and a life for herself there that really is what she was looking for. Now, lesson number 5 comes to you from Shannon, a woman who used to live in Richmond, Virginia, like I did. And she moved to Paris a few years back. And what she shared in our conversation, we had 2 conversations. I believe this is the first conversation I'm going to share with you. Helped me to understand how important accountability is. When I went through coach training, that was one of the tenets of coaching, is like, as a coach, you are somebody to help people stay on track to their dreams. And in talking to Shannon, I really saw how valuable that aspect of coaching is. So check out what she had to say.
You had this longer time frame because you have children who you needed to really plan and make this a solid plan. You were doing things like visiting, making connections, learning, teaching French,
Yes.
really building some things that would help you to make your move abroad. And yet you reached out to me for help in making that transition. Can you help me understand why that was? Where were you stuck?
So, even in hindsight, it's hard for me to say why I felt so stuck, but I did. That was definitely a reason I reached out to you. And I found 2 other people that do not the same thing, but who help people get visas to live in France. So I can speak to that as well, why I ended up choosing you. But this is why I ended up choosing you. I knew that I felt stuck, not because I couldn't do the steps that were needed to acquire a visa, but because I knew there was something blocking me from proceeding with the actual practical steps. In hindsight, I can say that. In the moment, I just had a sense that I didn't know what to do. And on the one hand, I knew from the beginning it would be a longer kind of project, that it wouldn't be, 2017, I have this idea, 2018, I will move there because of my kids. But I think 3 years out, it also, like any project that long in duration, you need some support. You need sort of a support system. And I think at that moment, I knew it had grown to a point where it was bigger than just a dream in my mind. But I didn't have enough support around me to help me envision those next steps. And so you were exactly the right person to help me like make that leap and start. You, and then also the community that you've built around this, really were the thing for me that helped me take it from a dream that I could make. It's like I could do all the preparatory steps, but I don't know if I could have crossed over the threshold and made them real
Yeah.
without your program.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think the logistical piece, the big logistical piece of getting a visa is daunting. It can be scary, but there are steps that you need to take in order to gather the documentation, have your appointment. And for you, that wasn't the thing that hung you up. It was something, a deeper mental block or something that was stopping you from going forward, making more progress.
I think for anyone who moves abroad for any reason, there's a point, even if you're doing it through a company that's moving you and doing a lot of these logistical pieces for you, I think that a moment when you stop and ask yourself, is this worth it? This is this is a lot of work. But in a situation like ours, and I imagine like many of your listeners, when you're doing it sort of independently on your own without any real pull from the other side in the form of a specific job that's placed you XYZ place, the amount of pressure you feel to kind of justify your choice, even to yourself, is overwhelming. And I think, again, that's where the community and you as a guide plays such a critical role.
So those are 5 of the many lessons that I have learned from clients over the past 5 years. Which one of those lessons feels the most powerful to you? Let me know in the comments. Now, I offer my Carefree Expat Incubator program for single women who are planning to move abroad, as well as one-on-one coaching for people who might not qualify for that. If you are feeling like maybe you are blocked, or maybe there is something that is standing in your way that you can't see, and you would like help removing that from your path, I would love to have a conversation with you to see where you are in your process, what things might be holding you back, and how our working together could make your move abroad happen more easily. I'm going to put a link to my calendar in the description where you can schedule a complimentary discovery call where we talk through all of that and figure out if our working together is your next right step. So I look forward to seeing you on a call, seeing where you are in the process, and seeing how I can support you. Now, that is all I have for you today. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, share it with friends, subscribe if you have not already, and I will see you again next time. Bye for now.